love me some vinyl, and I know it's a bad habit. I quit smoking, and instead I got into vinyls.
Hey,
So
you know, you could have a lot worse habits than vinyl, dude.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Acadia After Dark podcast. As always, I'm the Reverend Redbeard. I am happy to be with you this evening. Had a lot of new events on the Acadia After Dark page and stuff like that, so I hope that you all have had a chance to familiarize yourself with the new website. If you haven't, head on over to acadiaafterdark.com. But aside from that, this week I am joined by a very good friend of mine, Thomas Washburn Jr., the author, musician, creative from the local area, known him for a long time. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Been a bit since we've had a chance to sit down and yak.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the last time was when I was up there picking up some drum equipment from you. Geez, when you were cleaning out your old house there.
Yeah.
So that was been a couple of years at least. I mean,
yeah, like 4 years, four years.
Yeah. But aside from that, I have seen you when I was playing in Incandescent. I'd see you at the shows at least. We got to, didn't get to really sit down and chat because you know how shows are, but it's still one of those things.
Oh,
yeah. But man, time flies, doesn't it? I mean, it feels like it's been forever at this point, and I'm like, when the hell was the last time? I've been out of Incandescent for over a year now, so yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
as you get older, life flows by. Like, when you're younger, everything seems to like move super slow. And as you get older, it always seems to move a lot faster.
You're 100% on it with that, because there's literally, I say that to my fiance on a regular basis. I'm just like, time is going way too fast now. Like, waited all this time, and now it's just like, boom, it's over. I mean, we're already middle of April when we're recording this, and it feels like I'm still in 2024. Like, it's just been like that kind of a year. Honestly, I don't know. It's going to be, before we know it, it'll be Christmas. Happy New Year's. But yeah, anyways, man, it's great to have you on the show. Main reason, I reached out to you the other day and you were pretty much able to get right on the show. And it was convenient timing because I saw you had your new single Seasons come out that same day. It was the same day or the day after. Great song, by the way. Fantastic fucking song. Like, awesome stuff.
Thanks, man.
The last, I've listened to you since you started, back in Tomorrow's Tragedy, I think was the first time I heard you, and I followed you since then. And honestly, I think your last album was one of the best that you've put out in your career so far. And I'm honestly, from hearing this song, I'm expecting you to kind of exceed that expectation now. Yeah, dude. So now that I'm done blowing you, let's talk a little bit about what you've been up to. So tell us about the new album and stuff. What's going on, man?
Well, we haven't released anything in like 2 years. Our last EP, Decay Rebirth, came out in 2003. That was a 5-song EP. We had put out an EP in 2022 called Night Terrors, and an EP in 2000 called Requiem. For those who aren't familiar, In the Kingdom of Nightmares originally started out in 2008. We put out an EP called As Daylight Turns to Dusk in 2008, and a full-length album called From Darkness to Despair in 2010. And then we broke up in 2011. And then we decided in late 2018 Just circumstances. Everybody kind of moved back to the same area. Some people had moved away. Things, adult life things happened, and we decided we all really miss playing music together. So we were like, hell with it. Let's give it a shot and, maybe just play here and there, kind of be a dad band because we're all, in our late 30s and 40s. And,
Yeah.
So doing it like we did when we were younger, when we were playing, uh, 50, 60, 70 shows a year just really isn't feasible nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I totally get you there. That's kind of the thing is if you're established and you've got, where you can just do a show every month or every couple of months, that's one thing. Touring at this age is just out of the question.
No. For most people don't really realize bands, especially like smaller bands, mid-level bands, don't make any money. They really don't. Like, I mean, and I've played hundreds and hundreds of shows over the years, and you're lucky most of the time if you get paid gas money. You might make a little money on merch, but like with us, most of our money that we make off in merch goes right back into more merch and like recording and things like that. So we don't take any money really from what we make as a band. Occasionally, if somebody's like short that week or something and needs money for like a burger or McDonald's or something, but generally we put more money in out of pocket than we make back,
Always. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it is financially for you guys, but I know with us, yeah, it was basically if we managed to cover the gas money for the evening, whatever we were playing, pretty much we're good. And then you do the merchandise and stuff like that. If you're able to get that, in production, that's a big overhead for most like small bands starting out. You know how it is, like trying to find a place that you can consistently get quality merchandise done. It's hard, especially when you're doing it made to order or something like that. It's difficult.
Yeah, we've done really well with merch. So we're at a point like I guess you would say we're popular enough that we sell enough merch that we're able to at least cover most of our expenses as far as recording and stuff goes. But we put, like I said, basically anything we make goes back into a band fund, and then that just is more merch. That's more, and everything is just like everything else in life has gotten more and more expensive. So everything is almost doubled from what we were paying like 6 or 7 years ago for merch. So it's even more expensive, and I hate having to put that cost back on the fans, but at the same time, we need to make at least enough money to cover our costs and a little on top of it. We try to keep it as reasonable as possible, but it's
no, for sure. And it's not, it's not anything you can do about it. I mean, I looked at a hoodie the other day to try and have one made. It's $80 for just like a hoodie now. I'm like, okay.
You're spending 20 to make 5 is what it amounts to, so we try to keep our merch costs reasonable and stuff like that for the fans. And we try to always like once a year or so get a new shirt design or something, and then kind of throw that in the mix and have a variety. We've got a pretty good swath of merchandise. We also have the ability to print our own stuff kind of on like white shirts and stuff. We can do some of our own printing, so that does help us out a little bit, because we happen to be really lucky in the circumstance with our band and people's jobs and stuff. We have access to the things, and we bought a small heat press to do stuff. So we always have the option of making our own merch if we get really desperate and need to make some stuff. We try not to, but we always have it. And that stuff we can sell a little cheaper because we're making it ourselves. We still have to buy the materials and stuff, but we're not paying to have it printed. So we always like to have those options. If somebody's got $10 and they want a shirt, it's like, all right, cool, we made these ones, so I'll sell you a shirt for $10.
Yeah.
Because we appreciate, people coming out to shows, so we try to make it so everybody can get something if they want it, type deal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, especially because some people is just like they might have went in there with all the intentions of just going in there. They paid the ticket fee or whatever, and they're there for the night. Then they end up enjoying your band. They want to support you somehow. Well, hey, you got $10 to buy an album. I got 5. Okay, well, what do we have? It's cool that you're able to do that, have the access to that. We tried doing that in Incandesca. We made some shirts that are I think that they had one of those little laser printer ones there that would just do the basic logos on it. And that was the same deal. You had to buy shirts and everything. $20 for a shirt or whatever. It's okay, we made a few bucks off of it. Good enough. It's more to just have somebody repping your gear at that point, honestly, because that was always a big part of it. It's people talk about, doing it for the exposure. It's well, yeah, in a way, because when you're just trying to advertise, you'd be surprised how far it goes just seeing a logo on a t-shirt that's recognizable.
Oh, absolutely.
When I see ItCon in the wild, and I've seen a couple of them actually even down my direction, I'm always I was I wonder when they were at one of their shows, because it's you guys haven't played very many down my direction, so I know it's been a minute. It probably came from your way.
Right. Yeah. We, generally these days we play between probably 12 to 15 shows a year tops, but we're kind of picky about the shows we play just because we can only play so many of them. It's not that we wouldn't love to take every show we get offered, but sometimes it's well, we've already got 2 shows this month and we can't really do a third one, type deal.
Yeah.
Some months we can, some months you can't, some months we can't do any, so we try to be a little more selective about where we play and when we play, just so we're not, playing the same areas constantly all the time too, and spreading it out. But
that's a difficult thing around here, where there's really only so many venues that support metal music at all. And yeah, that's another thing, listeners. I don't know if I mentioned that in the beginning of the podcast. In the Kingdom of Nightmares is an incredible heavy metal act. They're fantastic. If you have not checked them out, absolutely do. I'll be putting links and everything in the description as always. But up here, there's only really been a handful of places you can consistently play, and you can only play so many shows in Bangor in a 3-month period before it's okay, I'm literally beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah. We generally try not to play the same venues more than 2 to 3 times a year, generally, tops, and we try to space them out 3 or 4 months in between each show if we can, and but getting back to, so we were talking about, we just recorded a new album.
Yes, yeah.
And sidebar diatribe going off, but that's it happens.
It happens, yeah.
It happens, yeah. We so after we recorded Decay Rebirth in 2023, we had started. We started writing. Usually, the process with us is we write, we put out an EP. We've only really put out EPs since we got back together, just because albums generally are way more expensive to record.
Sure.
And the listeners' attention spans are getting, very short, and people want new stuff all the time. So, we figured we'll put out an EP every year, and that way every year we've got something new coming out. Mm-hmm. So in 2023 we started writing, we got done recording, we played some shows. Usually we have a 2 or 3 month window in the winter where shows in Maine, because of the weather, are few and far between. So a lot of times we take that time to just write, and we started writing. And it just ended up we had a lot of good songs, but they weren't really completely coming together. So we spent a little more time writing. And by the time we were done, we had 9 songs. So we were like, you know what? It's been 2 years since we put anything out. Let's just do a full length album. And in that time, I guess we kind of have been always described as being more of like a classic metalcore kind of Kill Switch Engage Parkway Drive type band.
Yep.
But we changed. We went from 6 strings to 7 strings, and it wasn't like an intentional thing, but I think just the natural progression of the band since we got back together, we've kind of like evolved a little bit on every release, where it still sounds like us, but we're doing something a little different. This time around, I feel like these songs really fall more into kind of a melodic death metal type vibe, more of a like an In Flames, Amon Amarth type deal. More so than straight up metalcore. I mean, there's still those metalcore elements in our music. There will always be that in our music.
Of course.
We're never going to see us being like a straight up death metal band or, a thrash band or anything, but we're always going to have those elements, but we've always had those elements, even like the melodic death metal stuff. We've kind of always had that in our music anyway, but it's just, it's just the evolution of the band and who we are, and kind of like evolving as songwriters. And this, when we first got back together, 2 of the original members weren't with us, so it was 3 out of the 5 of us. A couple of our buddies joined, and one of our guitar player Tyler played with us for about a year or so, and then he was just like, to no fault of his own, he was just really busy, family stuff, work, stuff like that. And he was traveling an hour and a half each way to practice. So, it just got to be a lot for him to do it. So he kind of stepped down. And then our bassist, Bruce, who now plays bass in the band When the Dead Won't Die, who's a fantastic death metal band. If you guys, deathcore, death metal band, if you haven't heard them, he, same idea, kind of about 2.5 years in, he was just like, dude, it's a long travel for me to come up. And, I think musically, he leans in maybe a little heavier direction than us as far as what he's into. So, no hard feelings. We're still good friends with everybody. He gave us ample time to find somebody and all that. But so the lineup we've had now has pretty much been the lineup for about the last 5 years, 4.5, 5 years. Mm-hmm. And those guys brought in some different elements. Our guitar player, Luke, fantastic guitar player, great songwriter, but he definitely listens to a lot more like Euro metal and death metal and stuff like that. So he does bring some more of those elements into our music that, maybe we didn't have before. And it's just kind of, so that kind of natural transgression, of us evolving with the different members and having a solidified lineup and people being comfortable writing and coming in with more fleshed out material instead of just coming in with a riff and then us writing off a riff. This time around, both Chris and Luke, our guitarists, were coming in with half to 2/3 finished songs. And then we just kind of tweaked them a little bit and fleshed them out. And that ended up being what the album was, So we kind of put the ItCon spin on what they were bringing in, and everybody had their, kind of puts their 2 cents in. Yeah. And we tried different stuff. And it took a little longer this time because we did try stuff. We were like, well, let's try this. No, that's not really working. Well, let's try this. It's okay, but it could be better. Or, type thing. So we kind of revamped the songs, maybe not to the point of stripping them down completely or whatever, but it was adding little tweaks and little things. And that's what made the album what it is. And so it's probably the most cohesive album we've ever put out, you know?
Yeah. More of a collaborative effort than the previous ones, maybe, because you've got everybody kind of having equal input and getting each opportunity to share something new. It's really awesome. And your lineup, Yeah, the lineup that you've had has obviously been working for you because your sound has been incredible. The shows, the albums you put out in the last few years have been fantastic. And in particular, like listening to this new one, I can tell this new album is going to be something special. I'm really looking forward to hearing how that turns out. But your style of songwriting it's always evoked a lot of imagery. You tell a lot of stories through your music. That's
Very
always been
much
a
so.
thing I really enjoyed. You know, you've wrote books, you're a writer, and you're a musician. So, what's the seasons? Definitely is like a different tone, but it's definitely telling a story. You want to tell us, a little bit about that song?
So you're like the first interview type thing we've had since this has even like come to fruition. So I haven't really talked to anybody about this stuff, which is cool.
Oh
This
yeah,
is so you kind of get to hear the dirt first, I guess.
I get the scoop. Yeah.
You get the scoop. So I've always been the type of writer as far as lyrics go. It's kind of whatever's on my mind at the time. Like I write all the time. I have a book at home with about 400 or 500 sets of lyrics in it, and I'm not joking. Like I write all the time. So whenever I get an idea, I sit down and write. I may go back and tweak it, or if I decide I'm going to use it, I may tweak some stuff, reword it, do whatever. But the general idea is there, and so and a lot of itcon stuff, especially like older stuff. I am anybody that knows me, I am a huge Misfits fan, and I'm a huge horror fan. So I've always, a lot of itcon stuff has always had a little bit of a horror element to it. Scissors for the Drifter, for example, is about Joe Hill's Nosferatu. River Road is about Stephen King's Pet Cemetery. Deadlights is about it. The Assassin is about a dude hunting werewolves that killed his family. It's like, you might not know some of this stuff from listening to the songs themselves, but like that's what the precipice, that's what the idea was that triggered me writing the songs.
Yeah.
But I also don't just write that stuff either. So a lot of stuff, there's stuff just about general life stuff, about friends and family and just what's going on in the world, or all kinds of different stuff. So that's always been kind of a mixed bag of stuff. This time around, I personally, in the last couple years, without getting too deep into detail, have gone through. I've gone through a lot of personal stuff. My ex and I that I was with for almost a decade split. We had bought, I had 2 or 3 really good friends of mine in the last, year died. And so I took all the stuff that I was feeling and kind of without even really realizing it at the time, because like I said, I always write. So what ended up happening was once I really started going through all my lyrics and reading like what I had written, it's like, oh, this album is essentially about how I'm dealing with my personal grief of, relationships. It's somebody that was so important in my life not being there anymore, and people that, really dear friends of mine that have passed away, and dealing with that, and just all the different emotions that come along with it all poured out into my lyrics.
Yeah, it's definitely evocative, and it's definitely a new side to your music. There's always been, you're a person that I feel puts a lot of yourself into your music, obviously. That's a way you express yourself. So it was always one of those things in your previous songs, like every album you can kind of see, if you've watched you and listened to you over the years, you can see you not only like growing musically, but you also see you kind of growing as a person too, if you like, if you know you in real life, right? So
right.
it's like the new album, I feel like it's gonna be one of those things where it might be a good jumping in point for some people, because it is a newer sound. Like I'm used to, I mean, honestly, your favorite, my Night Terrors is still a regular listen of mine. And that's like, but then where I saw that you would like re-released, or it had popped back up again with the, you had Decade Rebirth. Then there was another one that recently popped back up, because it must have been one that did you re-release your one from 2010, or did that just like get uploaded to Spotify recently? Because it popped up in my thing like all of a sudden.
So I think probably a year or two ago we put that one back up, but that one hadn't been up online for like 3 or 4 years.
That's probably why.
And just because it's like, we're it's a part of the band's history, but the quality of the recordings isn't up to the standard of our quality of our material now, as far as like the recordings and stuff goes. So it's a bit rough, because back in that day we had no money. It was done at home type thing. We did the best we could with what we had type thing. And they don't sound terrible, but compared to the stuff we're doing now, it's very night and day different. So where we had just gotten back together and we're putting new stuff out, we didn't want that to be the first thing people heard. So we wanted, them to hear these newer recordings. And so after we had put out, I think it was right about the time we put Decay Rebirth out, we re-released the first album.
Yeah.
Just because we had enough newer material up that people, would hear that and be like, okay, I want to check out the old stuff and see where these guys started, compared to hearing the older stuff and going, man, I don't know, these guys sound kind of rough, type deal.
Yeah, no, that actually is brilliant. That makes a lot of sense, dude. Like, honestly, I wish I had that amount of like fucking forethought into anything I did, to not just shoot myself in the foot immediately and have my worst freaking quality stuff be the first thing people see.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, like, I never would have dawned on me. I'd be like, why does everybody think that I'm trash? Like, I'm so much better than this. But yeah, no, that's actually really, it makes a lot of sense. But it's funny because when I went on, like, because the way that Spotify works for me anyways is it puts your albums first.
Yeah,
where that's the only one that's listed as an album. That's the number one thing that comes up for me. And I'm like, well, this is old. Like, I'm like, did they re-release it? No, it still sounds the same. Like, not bad. It's still good for the time. Like, I still rock to that. It's
we did put new art. We did do new artwork for it, and stuff like that when we re-released it. We also just re-released all of our material on vinyl for the first time. So you can get all of our albums on vinyl, including our first album, but we limited that to 100 copies. So, and that's, it's vinyl. I love vinyl. I'm a vinyl guy myself, but
I got a few.
Vinyl is ungodly expensive to print. As an independent artist, it's very expensive to print. So we hadn't put vinyl out up until now. We found a company that does print on demand vinyl. That's this new company in the UK called Elastic Stage. So now we released everything on vinyl. The new album will be on vinyl, but it's and it's a little pricier because it is print on demand, but it's not like crazy pricey. It's about the same. Most people that buy vinyl, you're going to pay between $20 and $40 for a new record, and we're in that price range. So but it's for the diehard vinyl fans, you know.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing is like, I don't think anybody is buying vinyl because they think it's going to be the cheaper option now, which
No.
It's a niche thing, but that's like where it's at, honestly. Like, I know that if it's an album I really want to have, I'm going to buy it on vinyl, even though I know damn well I could buy it cheaper on CD. I could buy it for a third of the price if I just bought a CD or downloaded it.
I look at it this way, like when I want to support bands that I like, I generally listen to stuff on Spotify, on my phone, in my car, you know, whatever. But when I'm home, I want to listen. I like listening to vinyl because, you know, sound quality wise, I think it's better. It's just it's an experience. Listening to vinyl for me is experience. Like I don't usually just like put an album on and do something else that I'm not paying attention to. No. Like I put an album on and I sit there and I listen to it. It brings me back to when I was younger and I just would sit there and listen to albums. So to me, that's one of the big things that I really like about vinyl. And I'm super stoked that we actually have that option for our fans now that want stuff on vinyl.
Oh, hell yeah. It's dope as hell. I mean, just the flex of being able to have that yourself. Like, I mean, as a musician, I wish I had a vinyl of anything that I ever produced. Cause like, hell yeah, that'd be fucking awesome. But,
you know what?
Feather in the hat, honestly.
I said when I got our first test pressing of our, we re-released Requiem with a couple of the demo songs that we put out. And, so like I got that and I said, you know, this is something I never thought as a musician that I would have, something that I was a part of on vinyl. You know, I was like, that was like a big deal for me. That was like a total nerd moment for me, you know.
Absolutely. That's totally understandable. I never doubt over that. That's absolutely a cool ass thing to have. I mean, just honestly, the idea of like going through that, knowing, you know, yeah, okay. You're not going to sell them every show. It's not like you're not going to be regularly producing these or something like that. But just doing that for your devoted fans, because you've got some people that have been listening to you for a decade or more at this point, you know?
Almost two for some, you know?
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, you guys are one of those bands. If I was going to say that, like, honestly, there's like local metal bands. They've come and gone over the years, right? There haven't been a lot that have had the longevity that you have. I can't think off the top of my head of somebody that has been doing it, even with your break in between, for this period of time. You know what I mean?
You know, from the time we started, this technically actually playing, this is year number 10 that we've actually been playing. I mean, yes, there was a 7-year gap in between.
Sure.
you know, stuff, but
life happens. Like
yeah. There's a few bands that are still out and about playing. Loki is still around. They've been around for 20 years, you know, 20-ish years. Yeah, Loki's been around for a long time. Those guys still play and crush it. There's a few other bands that are, you know, probably I'm trying to think like right off the top of my head, but there's a handful of bands that have been around probably just as close to as long as we have, but we're one of the few that's kind of remained consistent, I guess. You know.
Yeah. You've gotten better with age, like a fine wine, you know, like
experience.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. Absolutely. You learn things over the years. That's for sure. I mean, honestly, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. It's awesome always to get to talk music, talk shop with you. The new album, when's that full release going to be looking to drop? Are we in a sort of imminent time frame, or are we still figuring that out?
Oh no, I actually just got finished. We just sent the CDs out to be pressed. The vinyl is going up to be pre-ordered here pretty quick. And we've got our release date is going to be May 30th. It drops at noontime on May 30th on all digital platforms. And then we are actually doing our CD release party or album release party that night in Searsport at a venue called Hey Sailor with our friends I the Conqueror and Kaiju's Light, which is a couple of your former band members.
Yeah, hey, I know them guys.
Yeah. So that's going to be the release party on May 30th, and that's going to be, that should be a really fun show. That I really enjoy playing that place. The food's awesome. They've always been very good to us. So we're looking forward to it. And we haven't played a show since we do a charity event every year called Mosh for Tots, where we raise money for local families to help with, holiday Christmas expenses and stuff. But we also take money. We do raffles and things like that, and we donate money to a different charity every year, whether it's a cancer charity or somebody, that just going through hard times type thing. So we do that every year at the end of November. And that was the last show we played was at the end. So because we kind of took a break because we wanted to finish up writing because we had studio time booked. So we wanted to be ready to go in. And then because this was a full length, it took a little longer to record. We went back with Evan Sammons again, who is an absolutely phenomenal producer. I highly recommend anybody work with him that wants top quality.
Where is he based out of?
He is in Belgrade, Maine. So,
Belgrade. Okay.
Evan was the drummer, or is the drummer for the band Last Chance to Reason. If any of you might be familiar with them, he has recorded a lot of good big bands. He works with a lot of other producers on albums. He just did some work on the new Kill Switch album. He did some work on Whitechapel's last album. He's done work with a lot of other bands of like that type caliber bands. Nice. Kayanashi, he does all their stuff with Kayanashi, and a lot of other bands. He does a lot of the bands in Maine, metal bands especially, go record with Evan. He's a great guy to work with. He's an excellent producer. He always gets the best out of you. He always pushes you to do better. So that's, I'm the type of person that hates recording. Do not like it. I'd rather play shows. I like writing. I like playing shows, but I've never been a guy that likes to record. I actually enjoy going down and working with Evan because I know he's going to push me to get the best out of me.
Wow.
And, so like I've actually gotten to actually enjoy my time with Evan. Like he'll tell me, like, try this, that's not really working. Why don't you try this? Or try your phrasing different, or maybe tonally, instead of doing like death metal lows here, why don't you try doing some higher pitch stuff? Or, maybe try singing this part instead of screaming it,
Right. He's starting to kind of get a feel for you and understand you and how to work with you. That's cool.
Yeah, and I've known Evan for almost as long as I've known you. So
yeah, that's quite the endorsement. As somebody that hated being in the studio myself, it was not a fun time for me back in the day of recording. I was like, I hated tracking drums. I hated being in a studio for 8 hours straight, doing the same part over and over and over. The whole process was just not it for me.
Yeah. No, I've come to enjoy the recording process and look forward to it, and seeing. To me now, it's become like, okay, we usually go in with the songs pretty tight and ready to go, but he always ends up bringing something new to the songs for us, like through suggestions and like ideas and just different things. So now it's a part of the evolution of the album in the process of going in and working with him, and then knowing how it sounded when we first started to when it finished is like, man, that's a lot better. Those little things just took it from being like, here to people, this is good for a podcast, but, it takes it from one level to brings it to that next level.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's partially because you've had this consistent, building of a relationship with them. And like, also you've kind of figured out your writing process together, and then like having sometimes that independent ear, especially where you guys have started to write together a lot more, having that fly on the wall or that other person that can chime in and kind of be like, hey, try this, that sometimes can piss you off, or it can open up a whole new, like, unfortunately, I was usually the one that I usually get pissed off. I'd just be like, you don't know how to play drums.
As I've gotten older, I don't get irritated. I've gotten more open to let's try it. If it sucks, it sucks. That's just. But I think that's a part of growing up and maturing as a person too, and sure. which also brings it back to why I think we've become so tight writing together, because there's more of that willingness from everybody to try stuff. Where before it was like, no, this is my baby, leave it alone, type thing.
For sure. And I mean, I told you with your last album there, I can't remember which song it was. I messaged you, like, I think it was the last message I sent you on Messenger before I sent you this message the other day. But with your last album, I was listening to it, and there was this one fucking song where you were singing on it.
Death and Love.
Like, dude, yeah. I was like, dude, this is insane for you. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is a whole other guy. Like, I was like, this is awesome. And then I was just like, to see where, like, the earlier stuff to where now you're doing that sort of range. I was like, oh my God, like, you've just gotten so good. Like, just better and better over time. It's wild. And you experimented with, like, so many new things these last few albums. Part of why I'm really excited.
There's even more on this new one as far as awesome. Like what I'm doing. And that's the thing. Like, I've always had some clean singing on every Itcon album. There's been some to some degree, but it was always usually just maybe like one section or whatever. Night Terrors I sang a little bit more on. Requiem, I don't think I sang anything on Requiem. Night Terrors, there was one line in Wolves at the Gate that I sang on. But Night Terrors I sang a little bit more on. Decay Rebirth was a little heavier, but I did some different things vocally. Like on Deadlights, I don't even really like scream so much or sing. It's kind of a weird, like, I don't know, Cradle of Filthy type voice thing going on there.
Yeah, and it almost reminded me of some of the singing you did back when we were in Killing Voorhees together.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that same register you were using in that, which that's another one that, like, I didn't know until we were in Killing Voorhees that you could do that sort of, like,
falsetto highs.
Yeah, dude. I was like, oh shit, man, this dude can do anything.
And then I sang on Deadlights. I mean, not Deadlights, Death of Love. I pretty much sang the whole song. There's not really any heavy vocals on that. That's almost all clean singing the entire song. And our friend Sarah Hartman from the band Averse come in and did the choruses with me, which that to me really made that song because she has an amazing voice. By the way, people, go out and check out Averse new album. It's absolutely incredible.
I have to look that up.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm always looking for new music. It's like where I do the radio gig, I have such a hard time of retaining new music.
Yeah.
So it's like somebody tells me a new album, I have to listen to it like immediately afterwards. Otherwise, I will not get a chance to. Yeah. And it's like I get to listen to an album once and then I won't hear it again for another, like, who knows how long. It just disappears into the ether, basically.
Check out the songs Lucid, Decapitation, and Burn are my two favorites on that one.
Nice.
So little plug
awesome.
For them. So this album going in, I really kind of touched on just about every type of vocal I am capable of doing. I did on the new album in some form or the other. Some more, some a little less, but there's a lot of different styles. There's everything from, like, more of a death metal-ish type lower registered growl, some more mid Cradle of Filthy type stuff, some of the traditional more metalcore style heavy stuff, and then there's more like Trevor Phipps, Phil Anselmo type stuff, and then there's more like cleans and everything in between. I did what we got. I tried a little bit of everything, and what worked, and that's kind of what we went with.
How many songs are we looking at? How many songs are we looking at for this one?
8. Well, there's 9.
8.
There's 8 full songs with vocals, and then there is an instrumental, a short instrumental that's kind of like the interlude in the middle of the album. That's absolutely, it's super beautiful. Luke wrote it. It's all Luke on the album playing. It's just him and his guitar, and it's absolutely incredible. So don't skip it if you grab the album, because that's one of those things that's like, man, that's so cool. You just kind of just sit there and like, holy crap, this is like so emotional. Like just him playing, it brings out a lot of emotion. It's a really cool piece. It's something we've never done. Something we've never done on an album. We've never had just an instrumental interlude type thing. So
yeah, I was gonna say I don't recall, but then again, it's like when you have studio time, you don't typically have like the if you're an indie band, you don't have the budget to just do an instrumental track typically, right?
No.
It's kind of a luxury to be able to do that, and I feel it's earned at this point with as long as you guys have been writing. I'm sure it's going to be a standout track, because honestly, I don't think, and I have my opinions on how albums are now, how music should be released. I could do a whole other podcast on just that shit, because honestly, I have my opinions, but I'm not playing music now for a reason. I'll leave it at that. But the thing with a big part of that, though, is that now you have this, like, you have an album that's going to be like, for my intents and purposes, that's a full length, 8-9 songs. You're gonna be releasing this. This is your longest one you've had in years, so this is gonna be a big thing. It's gonna be a lot of different genres and stuff like that. I'm wicked excited to hear it. So are you looking at, I guess with the new release and everything, are you going to be upping your like schedules, or are you going to be just kind of keeping on the normal truck? Because you said you were sticking to like 1 EP a year. This is a little extra than a 1 EP.
I mean, with us, you never know. Like, it's the way we write, we could bang out 6 songs in 2 months, or it might take us a year, So we may go, there's a chance in another year we go back in and do another EP. Or, we kind of, I think we're at the point now, we have so much material, and the amount of shows that we play, it's like, because when you put something new up, you want to play the material from that. But we have so many songs. I think we have like 30 some odd songs that we can play. And generally the type of shows we play, we do maybe 8 to 10 tops. So, trying to play new stuff and throw in like the fan favorites is become more of a challenge. And because we're not playing 200 shows a year where we can be like, all right, well, this tour, we're going to take these songs out and rotate them with these. It's like we only get so many shows a year. So I think we just kind of are going to play it by ear as far as like writing goes. But I think right now we have like 6 or 7 shows booked through summer, through the end of August. Yeah. We start our first show of the year since November is in May. May 16th, we're playing a show with our good friends in Dead in Your Eyes and I, the Conqueror, and Thousand Mile Fall, which used to be Alliance. We're doing Dead in Your Eyes EP release party, and then we have ours a couple weeks after that. And then we have a bunch of, other random shows throughout the summer. And then, and it's still early, so we may pick up a few more here and there between then. But I think we're going to try to, kind of stick with like the amount of shows we've been playing in that like 12 to 15 range. And we may end up playing a little more next winter, as far as like playing a few shows out, which we didn't do at all this year. Usually we pick up like one or two maybe in the winter, just so we're not going 6 months in between shows. So
yeah. Well, how much do you? Because I know before you were like constantly busy, like you were running Subterfuge Productions, which meant you were like in charge of other people. You were running a record label. You were doing the ItCon. As you had like a million projects like going consistently for a while.
yeah.
And like so now like you figure like Mosh for Tots, that's kind of like right in the middle of the winter at like the hardest time of year to plan something. So that's like when you're looking at booking shows through the winter, if you manage to pull off that one big one, you're kind of already ahead of it,
Yeah.
So it's like how much of that kind of factors in. And then now this year, it's like, well, who knows, year after year, depending on how many venues are going to be open. We lost two big ones this past year or two.
Yeah.
That were at least booking metal bands. And I don't know how many of them have picked up the slack since then. I can't imagine there's too many now.
There's some like DIY type shows going on in the Bangor area. We do some shows out at our jam spot, but we only do a few shows out there every year. And it's usually like the charity event type stuff.
Sure.
So I still book the shows at the jam space, but I think we're only really going to book a few shows, like I'm only booking 2 or 3 shows, but the 2 or 3 shows that I'm booking have between like 8 and 10 bands on them and are like more or less like all day event type deals.
Sure.
So there's a lot of moving pieces of wrangling all the bands and making sure everybody knows what's going on and, doing all that stuff. And, then working on the record label stuff on the side, and then the band, and then doing band stuff, plus working a full-time job. And, and
because it ain't paying the bills yet. It's
no, and it probably never will. I don't do it to make money. I do it because I love doing it. When I don't love doing it, I won't do it anymore because that's
the love of the game.
Exactly. And I love music. Music is really a part of me, and kind of not playing on a regular basis for like 7 years was one of the things that made me really realize it's like, because that was a big part of my life for a decade. And then I just didn't play really hardly at all for, I did a few handful of shows, couple reunion shows, a couple, other shows, but I didn't really play for 7 years. And I was like, once I started getting back together with the guys and we started playing, I realized how much I actually missed that part of my life. So, now I'm trying to just enjoy it as much as I can, go with the flow. I don't have any big expectations. Unlike when I was younger, when we were trying to maybe tour more and do it more as a full-time thing. And the funny part is, as we've gotten older and we do it less like that, we've gotten more offers to do stuff now that I would have loved to have gotten 15 years ago when I could have done it, type deal. So
it's fucking funny how that is. Like, honestly, like you're like, I'm kind of tied down and committed now because I have to show up 40 hours a week. I can't just take off for half a year. Like,
no. Most of the guys have kids and families and mortgages, and it's just, and music doesn't pay any money. It would be one thing if we could at least make what we make at our regular jobs and go out on the road, but you can't even do that. So
yeah, sure. The moment they're giving you a contract for 6 figures, then we can talk about doing that. And then figure out how they're going to pay the bills, and the groceries will be kept in the fridge.
We've been in like had reviews and articles in like worldwide published metal magazines.
Yeah, you were in a big one like just a couple of years ago.
Our review was right under Megadeth's new album review. It was like so. Stuff like that. Like we have listeners in like 80 or 90 countries. Like stuff we've been asked to do some stuff that we just can't do. It's like, oh, that would be really cool, but we can't, type
Right.
deal.
Yeah.
I can't go for a per diem of pizza and beer every night and $50 in gas. It just not, and the band getting paid nothing. That's just so
Exactly. Yeah, they don't really understand that, and I think people that have done it definitely know the struggle of it. And I think the people that don't, well, you're missing out because it's at least, I loved doing music. I did it for a long time myself. It's definitely one of those things that it's like you're always glad that you have that. I loved doing music. I loved a lot of aspects of it. It's just my certain lifestyle that I lead. It just didn't really allow for that.
oh sure.
It's a big commitment. It's something, every weekend you're going out to do a show. If you have some other part of your life, it's kind of pulling away from that. It's like a lot of other jobs. You don't understand how much you're pulling yourself away from the other things.
Oh.
And if you have a normal gig, it's hard enough. Then you talk about when you're traveling.
We back in the day, we practiced every week, hell or high water, whether there was a blizzard, there was whatever. We rarely ever didn't practice. Now, I mean, we still don't not practice a lot, but now it's a little more, hey, I've got a family thing going on this weekend, or I'm going to be gone this weekend. So it's a little more casual than it used to be, which has been a huge help, I think, in keeping everybody enjoying doing it too. We take the music part of it very seriously, like the writing and all that stuff, but we're not trying to go on a world tour. We're not trying to be the next whatever. We're just trying to be us and enjoying it and riding the wave type thing. So it's not quite so like stressful, I guess.
Yeah, you don't have that pressure of that you have to do it, otherwise you're going to be like letting yourself down, or you're going to be like missing a bill or something. It's not your, and that's kind of a good thing. I know there's a certain joy that comes with, like, everybody talks about, like, you have your dream job until the moment that you're paid to do it. And then it's like, that way with music is like, I'm pretty sure the moment that you realize that this is your full-time gig, paycheck to paycheck, is if I don't do this tour for however long, then I don't get paid. It kind of adds a different flavor to the whole mix.
Oh, sure. And that's one of the great things about being like where we're at, is we can put an album out whenever we feel like it. If in 6 months we decide we've got enough material for a new EP, we'll do it. If it's 3 years, then that's when we do it. There's no pressure. There's no pressure for us to put something out if we don't want to put something out or we don't feel it's ready. We do it on our own time. When we feel it's close to being ready, we make, because we book our studio time out 5 to 6 months in advance usually. We book our studio time, we get our stuff set, we finish writing whatever we're going to write, do whatever we're going to do, and then we go in and record. And that's just, so we may have like a general idea, okay, we want to put an EP out every year, but if we don't, whatever.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world, at least. That's a good thing.
Right.
Well, hey, man, I don't want to keep you all night, but before we do go, there's always my favorite portion of the show, because our big thing here is talking about the spooky shit here in Maine. You've been around in these woods, so do you have any stories you can share with me and the audience tonight?
Absolutely. This goes back, and it involves band stuff. This would have been, I think, 2008, 2009. We were playing a show in Presque Isle, up at the University of Maine, Presque Isle. Played a show up there. Now, where we live, it's about a 3.5 hour, 4 hour drive from Presque Isle back to where I live. I mean, it's a haul. Middle of the night, it's like, it's like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. You're out in the middle of nowhere. It's nothing but potato fields and trees everywhere you go. So myself, a couple of the other band members were in one vehicle, and some other people in another band that we were traveling with were in another vehicle. And we're coming down through this long stretch of nothingness. And all of a sudden, the sky lit up completely blue, but it come from the ground up. It paused, hung in the air for probably 20, 30 seconds, and then it just kind of shot straight up and gone. Like so much so that it lit the road up and all the surrounding fields, everything, like a huge area. And I stopped in the middle of the highway because there was nobody else there, and I was driving. And I just turned to the Gary was with me, my drummer. I turned to him and I was like, "Did you just see what I just saw?" And he's like, "Yup." And about 10 seconds later, I get a phone call. Mind you, the reception up there is terrible for cell service, but
so they were trying.
So I got a phone call, and the vehicle that was probably 2 miles ahead of me called and was like, "Dude, did you guys just see that?" Like it described the exact same thing we see. And I was like, "Yep." and and we just kind of drove on. Now, if you talk to Gary, he will reiterate the story pretty much right exactly as I told it to you. Because it's one of those things, like him and I will randomly be like, "You remember that time?" Like, that was one of those things that it just like, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. It was like, what the hell just happened, you know?
So, like, how far off was it? Like, was it within distance you could see where it came from? Or was it just like you knew it was off the ground in the general area?
So we were on the highway. I think we had just gotten off from Holton. So we were like in between Holton and Oakfield area. So there's just a lot of potato fields, and there's woods that run along. This light come up from behind the trees. And I mean, you could see it like I said, it illuminated the trees, it illuminated the fields. It hung there for 20 seconds or so, and then it just gone.
Weird.
And it was
so it's not like it was like near the ocean or anything like that.
No.
You're not like anywhere where there would have been like. I'm just trying to think because I know out there's not airports. There's not like, down my direction. Occasionally you'll see like helicopters and stuff, but that's it. You're not going to have stuff like that up there.
And when I say like a blue light, I mean it's like the sun turned on but blue, like that bright, like just for that 20 seconds, and then it was just like gone.
Wow. Close encounters of the third kind level of stuff. And
you're close to the Allagash up that way.
One of the I was gonna say you're not far off from some pretty historic territory there, which makes me wonder what is up in them hills that makes all of these weird things want to come and visit the interstellar vacation land, as I call it.
ETs really like potatoes apparently, and broccoli, because that's what they grow up there.
Maybe that's like I know I enjoy potatoes. Maybe that's not a thing where they come from, so they gotta get it somehow, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they can come here and they barter with us because they're just gonna get tariffed to hell. You know damn well they're not gonna let them have off cheap. Well, hey man, that's an awesome story. I really enjoy that one, man. That's a cool one. I haven't had a UFO one since my buddy Nomar was on the show. He was like my second interview I did, I think. Second or third. Man, that's a good one. Like, thank you for sharing that. That's cool.
I don't think I've ever talked about that before on anything other than a handful of people that know us have talked about it. I think that's the first time I've ever actually told that story. So
that's cool. It's an exclusive. It's an Acadia After Dark exclusive. I love it. I appreciate that, man. It's always great to get those. I myself have I'm a big UFO believer down here, but I haven't seen anything that I can say so far that I'm able to be like, I don't know what that is. Every time that I've ended up seeing something I thought it was, like when I go back and I look at it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could trace it or I could figure out what it might have been.
I 100% believe, I don't think we're alone, but I'm also not the type of person that every time I see a satellite go by, there's a UFO. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. That's the only honest to God thing that I have ever seen that just made me go, holy shit, I just saw something, so It's like I'm very much like you. I'm very analytical about any time I see stuff. Like, what could that be? What what is this? Oh, this string of satellites is going over right now, and that's what that is, or this whatever has launched, and this is what this is, and blah 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 blah, or this is just because of this weather pattern type thing. That's just how I am about stuff.
Yeah.
So
same.
For me, that was like one of those moments though that I just was like, holy shit, and looking over at Gary and him pretty much having the same expression, going, holy shit, what was that? So
knowing how he is, like, he probably had quite some words to say about that shit. he's a character.
Gary is very colorful.
Yes, exactly. Love listening to him fight with the flat earthers on Facebook. That's like one of my favorite fucking things on there. He's banned like every other time that I talk to him, he just pop up with a different account because he kept getting banned for just fighting with them, and they'd mass report him, and then he'd get his account locked. He'd message me and be like, "Hey, dude, like, what's going on? This is Gary again. I'm on my wife's account."
Yeah. I think he's finally gotten bored with that because he's just, he's like,
he's maturing. He's got kids. He can't be doing this.
No. Yeah. So I think for a while it was just he thought it was funny, So it was just like one of those, and he enjoyed it. Now he's just gotten bored with it, It's one of those things. He's just like.
Can't help but laugh, but yeah. Well, hey man, that was a fantastic story. I really appreciate having you on and getting to talk music, talk shop with you, getting a cool account from you and everything. Before we wrap up for the evening, you have the show coming up on the 16th. You said you have a show, your first show.
Yep. That one's in Biddeford, down
Biddeford.
Southern Maine, down in Biddeford at Mulligan's, and then May 30th is at the Starboard Hey Sailor at the Starboard Lounge in Searsport. That is our album release. So those are the two most recent, closest shows you can check us out at. And the album will be done. If you want to follow us, we are basically on pretty much most social medias. Just look for In the Kingdom of Nightmares. We're on most streaming services for music. If you want to support the band, if you like what you hear, you can buy our stuff digitally through Bandcamp, and that's like the best way to support us because we get the majority of the sales. Whereas like through Amazon or Apple, whatever, we get a big chunk taken. Or if you just want to listen to us, that's great too. But you can buy the albums digitally through Bandcamp, Amazon, iTunes, a bunch of other places. And if you're into vinyl and you like it, go on any of our social medias and you'll see the link in a post. Just scroll down to a few posts and there's some links there. We do have a .com in the kingdomofnightmares.com. I don't update that as much as I should. Like, I think it's been like a year and a half since I've updated it, but it's got a lot of the general info on there. So if you go there, you can at least get to some of our socials and places where you can check our music out.
It's a good directory to help people to find you. Worst case scenario, I'll be dropping links in the description of the video and the Spotify for your socials and all that stuff. I'll get you some. I'll get with you and get which links are active and everything. I think I've already got you on Instagram as well as Facebook. So that's usually the two biggest ones for people to find people. Yeah.
Also, sometime before the album release, we are going to be dropping a second single from the album that will be accompanied with a music video that we just shot a few weeks back. So there's going to be a music video and that single coming out. I don't have a release date yet because it's kind of dependent on when the music video gets done because it's a lot. There's a lot to go through on that. We did that with Lenny Vision. So nice. Lenny Vision Filmworks is doing the video. So we're hoping like a week or two before, so maybe somewhere around the 16th, in that time frame that we'll be dropping that. But we'll so if you keep up, follow us on the socials, we'll kind of let everybody know at least a few days beforehand when we're gonna drop that stuff and debut that one as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I will definitely be throwing all that stuff up. This episode will be up well before that. I think they're probably going to be the very beginning of May. So we should have a couple of dates ahead of that, give people a couple of weeks if they want to check out In the Kingdom of Nightmares, TJ stuff. Incredible band. I've listened to them for years. I'm so glad I got to have you on the show tonight. This is awesome, dude. I really appreciate you coming. This has been an excellent episode because I haven't gotten to really talk to many musicians about just music so far. So this is a little bit outside of our wheelhouse, but we did keep it in because it's Maine. And we got some spooky talk in there, so that's always a good part of it. That's the two key criteria for my podcast. It's my fucking podcast, so if I want to do it my way, I do it my way.
That's right. Hey, and Antcon has a lot of spooky themed material as well, so you know it's not just
absolutely does.
We don't have a lot of songs about flowers and sunshine.
No, not at all. I mean, honestly, you've always been a horror enthusiast. You know, we've always talked about that because, you know, we did Killing Voorhees together. Obviously, it's slightly higher, slightly horror, a little bit horror centric there.
A little bit, yeah.
A lot in the Kingdom Nightmares imagery. I mean, some of it is straight out of horror movies, and then the other ones you can make a movie out of it. So it's good on both ways. So yeah, anyways, y'all definitely be checking out In the Kingdom of Nightmares. I'll be putting all the info in the description. So definitely check that out. TJ, has been great having you on, man. I appreciate you and keep doing what you do because you're just getting better every time I hear you. It's awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. It was good catching up. It was definitely good to sit and yak for a little while.
Yeah, I fully, and I know that it's a big part of that is just on me with reaching out to people because it's kind of one of them things. Time really slips away from me more than it should. I do not want it to be. I do not want it to be another year before I get a chance to talk to you again. So I will definitely be in touch more frequently. You'll be hearing from me hopefully soon when I get the album because I'm going to be picking that up, and I might even pick up the vinyl just because.
Oh, that would be awesome. Pre-orders are going up for the vinyl like probably this week or next week, so you can pre-order it.
Keep an eye out. I love me some vinyl, and I know it's a bad habit. I quit smoking. And instead, I got into vinyls.
Hey, so you could have a lot worse habits than vinyl, dude. You know
that's what I say, but you know, it's like, anyways. But
as my 3,000 movies are off to my behind me.
Yeah, you had an impressive collection though, and it's like the problem with that is now with physical media is becoming less and less supported. What you have is going to hold value. Same as a vinyl is going to accrue a lot more value than a digital transfer. That the moment that the license is up, poof, it's gone, and you no longer have that anymore.
Absolutely. I'm full supporter of physical media. Full supporter of physical media.
Keep it up. Always buy physical when able. I know it sounds asinine to say from a person that's only available via streaming. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Anyways, y'all, this has been the Acadia After Dark podcast. As always, I appreciate you. This is the Reverend Redbeard signing off. Keep those lanterns lit and stay safe out there. Hey y'all, Reverend Redbeard here again. I just wanted to come back because after the recording, TJ got a hold of me and he actually was able to send me a copy of Seasons as a digital download and told me I could go ahead and put it into the episode. So here, as courtesy of In the Kingdom of Nightmares, is their newest single, Seasons. Enjoy. Talk soon.